Hey guys, what's up? What's up? A little bit earlier than usual today. Although I'm not sure if it matters. I don't know if anyone ever discovers this, it will definitely not be right now. I don't even know if YouTube, Cake, or Twitch have actually time of the stream. Date, yes, but time probably not. Just couldn't sleep in for too long. Despite going to bed around 7 o'clock a.m. Yeah, I was moving around a bit yesterday, so had to unpack on setup, on everything. And then, of course, anxiety kicks in of like, oh, I haven't actually done anything today. So, interesting couple of days. All the same stuff, honestly. Nothing super major to report, but I think it was over a week since last time I checked in. Aini, could you... I don't want to be carrying this butt with me. So, could you just maybe stand there for a second? Sorry. Anyway. Nothing super major to report, except for, some major progress on some things that still aren't out. I do realize that I think 2-ish months ago, I did promise some major news regarding the novel, or novella as I call it, or maybe even light novel would be the best description, although it's not professionally illustrated or anything like that. But a lot of light novels are like hardly illustrated at all. It's just like the biggest cringe point of calling my novel a light novel is that it's not being published in Japan and it's not written in Japanese. And outside of Japan, the concept of light novel doesn't really exist, really. In English, we have the word novella, but novella doesn't really mean what light novel means in terms of its format. And anyway, there's a lot of busy work regarding just kind of like putting everything together. It's not as easy, unfortunately, as just typing up a blog post. Just like even technicalities of a format of how basically a book needs to be formatted. And had some major progress this week, but also I was not at my workstation, at my place this past week. So it was all on laptop, and now a lot of things need to be kind of like, I suppose, implemented that I could only think of during the week. Now it's time to actually do them. Partially because some things I didn't do because I only had my laptop and I didn't have actually access to some things because the current laptop I'm using right now for travels is a Linux installation, actually, and it doesn't have everything I'm working in Pages, for example. My main word processing. I'm not actually writing in Pages, but Pages is the main word processing I use in order to make any of the PDFs or docx, files. So now I realize that Google Docs is probably the best way to have a docx type of fork of my novel builds, because it's just so easy to have it online, and super easy to copy and paste if I want to kind of like keep the formatting. Because if you copy and paste from either, like into browser, I mean, if you copy and paste from browser, from like either Pages or docx into a browser, you don't know what kind of formatting will carry over, what will not carry over, what will completely break. Like my favorite thing that happens sometimes when you either copy and paste with formatting between word processing applications and or browser text processing applications and or browser, is that sometimes for some reason you just have either random line breaks disappearing, or you have actual spaces between words randomly disappear. Actually a crap ton of them. Not sure what's happening there. So yeah, anyway, like honestly just busy work. Also I need to glue my phone back together because the back plate of my phone unglued itself again. Last time I put it back on its place was not really using the only glue I had, which was not the glue that needed to be. Well, the glue that was used there initially was not the right type of glue, actually either, because obviously the whole thing just completely disconnected after about what, year and a half, 2 years of use. Great engineering, Samsung. You would think if you are an engineer and I don't know, you're making a product that's going to be maybe heating up and stuff like that, you would consider using an adhesive that can actually take that. You would like test your product, so to speak. But unfortunately, modern phones, just like modern everything, is barely being tested before sold to customers, because it only takes a year essentially for the new phone to come out. And yes, of course, technically every single phone that comes out like yearly, like iPhone or what Samsung does, yes, of course, technically they've been in the planning stage for way over a year, yeah, but the entire focus of your division, or maybe even your entire company, obviously, until the previous phone comes out, it was all on that phone. It is all on that phone. And so the next phone really honestly only gets a year of focus. So yeah, nothing is effing tested ever. That's how you get phones with like randomly exploding batteries. You would think something like that would be, would come up in testing. You have phones that claim to be for gaming and then they overheat. You would think, something like that would come up in testing, but no. Yeah, so this time the backplate of my phone unglued so hardcorely, like it actually fully disconnected. It was still held by in a few places last time it happened. So you could use it. There was just like basically a giant gap in the middle on both sides. Now it unglued itself so hard, it like literally just fully disconnected. And using it like this, basically holding it by the back plate with a pop socket, like my phone would have been on the floor right now, or dangling by the like connection, the camera lens connection, or by the camera lens itself, I suppose. I don't know. Heini, I cannot follow you there. Come here. So yeah, just so you understand how disconnected I am from the neural grift work, as I call it, which is the internet society, the internet community. I have just learned about the Stop Killing Video Games initiative, because I honestly, I watched that last video by the dude, and he names like all the biggest YouTubers and or streamers, I suppose, who were covering this situation. And I'm like, yeah, I don't watch any of those. Like Asmongold, you know, type of people, like Moist Critical type of people. I'm like, yeah, I'm not surprised I didn't know. Like, yeah, because what those people cover is literally what is happening on the internet, or rather what is happening in this imagined like video game community of the internet that doesn't really exist and not really a community. And even if it is, it's definitely not about video games. You say what you want, but those people are most definitely not not like gamers or anything like that. Like, what's the most video game Asmongold has played in the last 2 years? Like Elden Ring, and then what? Back to Diablo or Warcraft. That's not gaming. That's just addiction. But whatever, right? So, interesting initiative, of course, and I completely don't understand who the hell was that pirate software guy. Why was he a big deal? What, is he like a big streamer or something? Never heard of him. Like, who's watching him? 500 people on Twitch or something? Who's watching Twitch anyway? And again, who's watching streamers? People who watch streamers aren't video gamers. So I don't understand what the drama is. I don't know. He might be yet another one of those quote-unquote influencers or streamers, whatever you want to call them, who have like these out of nowhere, like Dr. Disrespect / Ninja. Yes, I will call it Ninja. Ninja, probably, to completely be American about it. You know, like 50, 100K, you know, people out of nowhere watch you basically suck at like some battle royale game, which I've already expressed my doubts on why would this be? Like, I don't understand. Like, 50,000 people is a huge stadium. Can you imagine a huge stadium just like of people sitting with popcorn and Pepsi and like watching Dr. Disrespect, you know, repeatedly spawning in Warzone, dying in 2 minutes, and literally not even saying anything pretty much most of the time, because Doc isn't really very good at video games, unfortunately. I love him. Not super personally, because, well, maybe that's the thing. I don't know. I love him as a character, but professionally, I think what he does is like, his character is good, but his content is just such slop. And he's a good entertainer in theory, but then again, it's just that he has an entertaining character. But if you actually watch his streams are probably even less entertaining than those of you know, people like Ninja or whoever else you guys are watching or pretend to watch. Because he actually doesn't say anything most of the time. Most of the time he just sits there in silence, sucks at video games, like all of those streamers. But unlike the rest of the Gen Z / Gen X or millennials pretending to be Zoomers, like Ninja or whoever else, right? He doesn't have this like angsty OCD, you know, I'm very obviously either on cocaine or some kind of antidepressant that makes me like super hyped about everything all the time, you know. So I'm not saying I prefer that to something that Dr. Disrespect does, which is basically just sitting in silence until one of his like semi-professional esports friends joins his team and just carries him for 6 hours, and then they just have a conversation while playing. But unless that happens, it's just silence. You know, I'm not saying I prefer like a zoomy, you know, OCD / anxiety type of presentation. I'm saying I prefer neither. Yeah, but anyway, like maybe that pirate software guy is just one of those, you know, people who for some reason has this visibility of being like a giant streamer, but no one's actually watching him, therefore, no one actually knows about him. Aini. In and out from the same direction, please. Next time. Cool. We done it. Yeah, I don't entirely understand his shtick, just in general, and also on the problem. But I assume his shtick is that, if so just based on his nickname, I assume his general shtick has something to do with, maybe the basic fact that if buying a video game, or paying for a video game, rather I should say, but most video games are out there actually not necessarily free to play and not even subscription based. They are actually, you still pay money to technically buy them. Well, the thing that in recent years, it all pretty much started with Ubisoft, right? Ubisoft CEO, famous quote of gamers supposed to be getting used to the fact of not owning anything. Well, then why am I buying something? If buying something doesn't mean I own it, then, well, how is pirating a theft then, right? And maybe that's his thing. So his take on the stop killing video games is just the nihilistic perspective of like, who the hell even cares? If those companies, AAA companies are who kill their video games, oh no, are out to basically scam you, well, just scam them and return them, just pirate their software. Is that his thing? I don't know. But if his take on the whole situation, basically the initiative being dumb, is somewhere along the lines of, who even cares if like Diablo 4 will be dead in 10 years, then, well, first of all, Diablo 4 will probably not be dead in 10 years, because we still have Diablo 3, for example. It's still going relatively strong, or it's still going, at least, right? But okay, so say in 50 years, right, Diablo 3 will be dead. Well, if Diablo 3 will still be playable offline, Diablo 4 will still be playable offline. Actually, no, Diablo 4 I think literally unplayable offline, but Diablo 3 is playable offline. Also, even if it wasn't, I'm pretty sure, like the PC version, I'm pretty sure console versions would be. I definitely know that the Switch version of Diablo 3 would be playable offline. Maybe console versions of Diablo 4 will be playable offline, even if the PC version is unplayable. I don't know. Like, if we're talking game preservation, then there will be ways to play a lot of these products, I'm not even calling them video games, that may or may not be killed in the following decade or so. But that technicality aside, because all of those games are service type games, including Diablo 4, Diablo 4 is already a completely different game from how it released, So the game you originally bought does not exist anyway, one way or the other. So how would you even preserve it? Like, all the previous iterations, right, of Diablo 4 are not preserved. So would you just want to preserve the very last one? Well, what about the one that came on the disk? If it's unplayable without a server connection, like, how do we... Okay, so we can clearly identify the very last build that will exist on everyone's hard drive at the day the game will die, and we have the very first build, right, that came on the disk, so to speak, if such thing even existed. And what are we gonna do after that? Like, all the other iterations are obviously forever lost to time. So, like, which one are we even talking about? Because people will argue, right, that, I want the original one. Well, if you want the original one, if you're the kind of person who hates the fact that you buy a game that's like a service type game, like Destiny, for example. So you bought Destiny, right, 10 years ago. You open Destiny now, it's a completely different game. You can already be bitching about the game you bought, being killed. Because Destiny 2 is absolutely nothing. It's a completely different game. Well, it's like for all kinds of technical reasons, it's the same game. But content-wise, it's almost entirely different. So the game you've paid for already was already taken from you. So you don't necessarily need to be waiting for the publishers to kill your video game in order to bitch about it being dead. And who's gonna stop publishers from doing that? Like we could start from something like that maybe. If you buy a service type game, it's pretty obvious that like the game eventually being dead down the line isn't even necessarily something you question, because you already understand that the game you bought will effectively stop existing. In name only, it will carry on maybe for a few years, but content-wise, the game you bought will be either significantly altered to the point where, well, like, I don't know, imagine if you bought, like, to the point where it would basically be unrecognizable, or it would be spoiled to the point where you would say, well, this is not exactly what I paid for. Imagine you bought Mirror's Edge, right? And a year into it existing, DICE/Electronic Arts, issued a patch that completely recolored the runner's vision from red to purple, and there would be no way to turn it back to red. Well, you'd probably be pretty sad about it, right? You'd probably be like, wait, no, you cannot just change something like that and say this is finished. What you had a year ago was just unfinished portion of the game. We changed our mind. We decided to randomly completely cut a character out. We completely cut maybe like a few side quests from a giant, sandbox RPG. We decided to cut a few characters, a few side quests. We decided to erase a few dungeons. Now, we added one dungeon. We deleted 3 because 2 of them were problematic and 1 was really buggy. We couldn't get it to work. But we added 1, but those other 3, those are gone. Like, you can already argue that, like, why are you butchering the game I love? Like, what the hell, guys? This is not what I paid for exactly. I want the game I bought. I don't want this, to turn my inner boomer. I don't want this new shite, right? I want the game I bought. So, like, are there any people out there who legitimately boot up, like, Diablo 4 these days, and they go, like, I wish we were just in Season 1 permanently? No, everyone understands that basically what looks like a purchase of a Diablo game is actually just a lifetime subscription. And it's not even super lifetime, because you will eventually have to pay for big DLCs anyway if you want to keep playing it for real. Same thing with Destiny, It's you don't really buy a contract, you just buy kind of like a key. A key to access the ever-changing MMO, product. It's just a lifetime subscription type of thing, with then optional purchases, be it microtransactions or big DLC. So I think pretty much, the idea of the game initially dying is already included, because for all intents and purposes, or for many possible technicalities, the game is already dead 1 year into its lifespan anyway, because it's nothing like what you bought originally. So who cares if the game will die in 10 years? It's already dead. It's dead on arrival. Or rather, it arrives on borrowed time. So, and it's not just a seasonal type of thing. I mean, some video games like Destiny, for example, it's not just about seasons. The core game of Destiny 2 was completely swapped for a different experience, for a different game, right? So it's not just like the seasonal content changes. No, everything can change, and everything does change. If you really loved Warframe 5 years ago and you put a lot of money in it and time, either or both, and you boot it up now and you have all that money invested and you want to play Warframe you remember from 5 years ago, well, it does not exist anymore. So what's exactly... why are we waiting for games to be killed when they are born dead? I don't know. Like, personally, I'm not saying it's a bad idea, the whole thing with stop killing video games. I think video games on a much deeper general philosophic levels are being killed, you know, in much more profound ways these days than just that some slop like The Crew is no longer playable. Are you like, for is Crew the hill you want to die on? Oh no, I can no longer play Crew. Well, guys, that's just cope. First of all, you were not supposed to buy Crew in the first place. Okay, if you bought Crew or The Crew, whatever, and that's on you, you know, for buying a slop. And then the slop goes offline, and now you can no longer even play it. Well, again, I mean, I feel sorry for you, but it's not the type of game you should be playing in the first place. You know, that game is going to rot your brain and destroy your taste. Or, well, it's not even destroy your taste. It's just that you're feeding into... you're feeding the machine that promotes, you know, tastelessness in video game design and just arts in general. So, okay, The Crew being dead, you know, for people who legitimately purchased it, yeah, it's scammy. It's scammy. If you wanna, like, nip, you know, Ubisoft in the butt for doing that, I mean, I suppose you're entitled to having that, but like, philosophically, morally, whatever, like, who actually cares? I mean, I assume there's like a niche, maybe some kind of cult around that game, but like, what, 1 million people, honestly, all they think about right now is just their inability to play The Crew. I don't get it. I'm not gonna be like the, what's his name, Pirate Software. I'm not gonna be like that guy who says that it's just all like really dumb or bad or whatever. Like, no, I think it makes sense. You know, companies like Ubisoft are basically scamming you, yes, because the words I used in the contract is that you purchase the game. Not in the actual contract, right, but in the social contract on the store where there is a purchase button or maybe even a buy button, and but then there is a small text somewhere on a completely different page of the website that says, actually, you know, purchasing video games on our store doesn't mean you own them. You know, it's literally just a license to temporarily access, you know, them. Yeah, it's scammy, right? It's sleazy, and if you want to nip the companies in the butt for doing that, then all the power to you. But as a quote-unquote gamer, I honestly don't give a fuck about preserving, you know, Diablo 4. About preserving Destiny, because essentially the idea is that obviously you cannot force companies to run their servers indefinitely, right? Because it's just insane. You cannot, in the free world, you cannot force them to do something like that. And of course, I know it's debatable whether the world we're living in is free or not, but we're not currently in any kind of position where something like that can be forced upon companies. And it's unreasonable to ask something like that of them anyway. However, it is reasonable, of course, to go to Ubisoft and be like, hey guys, if you released a video game, basically completely inaccessible, despite having offline features, right, and technically playable offline, the game will literally not boot unless it's connected to a server. And then you kill the server and you don't patch the game so that it can be played offline. Yeah, that's scammy. Absolutely. I think that should be a feature. However, do I care that, like, Destiny 2, something like that happens to Destiny 2 when servers go offline? No, I honestly don't. Because even if it does, first of all, the game as it stands, without its multiplayer infrastructure, will be basically unplayable. Can you imagine Destiny 2 and you play it solo like there's literally no one else in the world? The current matchmaking even needs to be altered, because without partners, certain missions, I mean, Nightfalls, I think, don't even start solo. You can start a raid solo if you absolutely want to, but either Nightfalls or Vanguard, I don't even think you can solo them. And if you want to, the game will... It's not that the game will force you into a party. There's no way even to check any kind of box to say I want to do it solo. Maybe Nightfalls you can do solo. With Vanguard, I don't think you can do Vanguard solo at all. I think people literally fuck with their routers so that nobody can connect to them, or they cannot connect to anyone, so, like, in order to play those games solo. Or maybe use some kind of special VPN settings for something like that. But anyway, you know, even matchmaking. But okay, well, maybe we can argue that, okay, matchmaking can be completely taken over. Well, what about basic co-op? Well, in order for like a basic local type of co-op to be possible for something like Destiny, the whole game will have to be completely patched through. And first of all, companies just not going to do that. And second, even if they did, what version of the game are we talking about? Are we talking about Destiny 2 of 2025, or are we talking Destiny 2 of like whatever the fuck the game came out, 2015 or something like that? And I honestly don't care that some video game in its latest, probably worst and most directionless state might be preserved somewhere with a single player offline local single player capabilities. It's just kind of like, whatever, you know, it's not a video game at that point anyway. You take even something like I make fun of, like Warframe. I actually played a ton of Warframe in my day. Probably not like, you know, 1 million hours, but definitely a few hundred. And it used to be a real video game, you know, you would boot it up and it felt like it was a directed experience. Now you boot it up and it's just like a sandbox of bullshit. You don't even know what to do in order to have fun. Because the game has no direction. It just has, it's just like a barf of random activities. And do you want that preserved forever? I personally just cannot make myself care about something like that. But a lot of people are very passionate for some reason for those service, you know, type slop to, you know, potentially be preservable. And in my opinion, honestly, you know, the sooner it will all go away in history and forgotten, the fucking better. You know, I don't want your children or my children or grandchildren at any point be able to go to a ROM website somewhere and download themselves a PlayStation 6 version of dead and unsupported Destiny 3 and be like, that's what Granddad used to play, and yeah, like, it's such a shame this game is dead. It's such a shame no one's playing this game anymore. No. It's okay. It's okay that your kids won't be able to play The Crew 2 or 5. It's totally fine by me, actually. And if you're the one affected by buying some slop that then the publisher of which just taken it away from you, good. I think learn some kind of lesson from it and maybe stop supporting games like that. That's just my personal take. I understand and I agree with the desire to nip the publishers in the butt for doing something like that, but personally, you're not grifting any kind of like righteous anger out of me Your call to action does not land with me with your proposition that we need to save Diablo 4 from dying potentially somewhere down the line, or Destiny 2, what if it's gone forever? Good, I say, honestly. So yeah, that's my take on the whole situation.